So if you've seen my video about why I applied to St Catharine's College, Cambridge, you'll kind of know that I applied to CATS for a lot of the wrong reasons. But having now done 3 years of undergraduate study here, what do I actually think? Well, it's time for another honest chat with Maria. So today I'll be reviewing the college and I'll be considering a lot of different things about my experience, and I'll decide whether it was actually worth it and whether I even regret going at all. So my name's Maria. I am now starting my 4th year in medicine at CATS in Cambridge. And yeah, at this point I feel like I'm qualified enough to kind of give an opinion on like what it was like and my experiences there. So I've split the video up into a few key sections. So one of those is academics and education. And that's because within college you will have your DOS and supervisors in most cases. So they will be like teaching you and giving you feedback and tracking your progress. So since that is college based, I'm going to consider that within here. And then I'm going to focus on welfare. So for me, I think this is one of the most important things. Like having gone through a few like rough patches with mental health, I think the welfare support within college has been really important, and for me this is a super critical part of considering how good any college is. Another thing that I want to focus on is costs, because I think this is really important for a lot of people, and like that includes accommodation but also sports and food costs within, so super important. The other things are a bit more minor, but staff in general, facilities and accommodation, or generally location, and like the general people there. Right, let's get started then. So in terms of academics, I think CATS turned out to have quite like a strong performance. So on the whole, out of the 31 colleges, they would tend to do around like 10th. So there's like this big ranking table called the Tompkins table, and that puts colleges in order of how well their students have performed in the last year. So that gives like the proportion of first class degrees and then first class combined with 2-1s. And this year I think CATS actually ended up getting 2nd out of 31 colleges, which for me was actually really surprising, but at least this is the data that I found, so either way it seems it's very impressive. That might be because of how they select the students in the first place, but also the teaching in general in college. I've had some really good supervisors within college who have been really supportive and like helped explain the subject material. I think in a lot of cases they were also able to source supervisors from other colleges or working as doctors who were very good. Although that being said, I did have a few really terrible supervisors, so not all of them were great, but on the whole most of them were quite good. I think a problem though with that is at times I felt like the environment was quite stressful and put a lot of pressure on academics, especially my director of studies at the beginning of first year. He made the whole experience quite stressful, and though he was a good supervisor, there was a lot of pressure to do well. In terms of welfare, I don't think I could have expected anything more from CATS. CATS was really incredible with this. So CATS has one of the highest spending amounts on welfare of any college per student, as you can see here. And for me that was really important because it meant that there was a whole welfare team. So we've got 2 welfare nurses, but when I was in 2nd year we had 1, but that's miles better than lots of the other colleges. We'd have a chaplain who had a pastoral role as well, so she was really important to me at the end of 2nd year when I was going through a rough patch. And you also have a tutor. Your tutor kind of gives you a lot of support in terms of your health but also finances, and we'd have termly meetings with them. On the whole, CATS has been really good with this. They also have students which are welfare officers. They have lots of initiatives to try and help people. So they'll there was this one thing where they'd give out like these welfaries. So you'd like nominate somebody and you get to send them like a cute item, like a face mask or like a squidgy toy or sweets in their like pigeonhole in college. So that was really cute. And they'd also be giving like welfare packages during exams, which I thought was a really nice touch. So in terms of costs, I think CATS try to keep them as low as possible. So accommodation, I think, is a decent price. It is a lot more expensive in some other colleges. Some of the worst offenders I've heard of are Girton and Queen's. So if you want cheap accommodation, don't go for those. So I think accommodation ranged from about 1,100 to about £2,000 per term. I think one of the best things though is that we could have these shorter contracts. So the shorter contracts were for 3 sets of 9 weeks or 3 sets of 10 weeks, but it basically meant that it kept costs low for the year, and it was all subsidised because CAT was then letting out the accommodation during the holidays for conferences. So yeah, that made a huge difference and it made it a lot more affordable for me. I think they even did something during the pandemic where they provided their accommodation for people fleeing domestic violence, which I thought was really excellent as an initiative. On the whole, hall was also quite cheap. So this would be food that was prepared by the college, and yeah, the cost, I think it was about like £2.50 to about £3.50, £4 per main. But yeah, I think it was really good how that was subsidised by college, and because the cooking facilities in college aren't that great, it was nice that you had an option of relatively like accessible food to eat regularly. That being said though, the college food isn't amazing, especially if you're vegetarian. Like, I think you'd really struggle to get your necessary protein intake. I think the formals in college, so like the fancy dinners where you have a Latin grace beforehand and then like a 3-course meal, I think those were overall okay in terms of cost. Still relatively expensive, but most of the time they are subsidised. So it would be about £14-15 per meal. So for a 3-course meal, I think that's pretty good, but if you're on a student budget, that is still quite a bit. I think it was also really nice though how college would provide free formals at different points in the year. So you'd have a free matriculation formal. So when you start college, there would be one in second year known as halfway hall, which was also free and provided for us. And then you'd have the graduation formal. So you'd get to go to at least 3 formals during your time for free. And that usually included alcohol as well. I think another big perk was a lot of the sports were made free as well, and that included rowing. So rowing is a really expensive sport, and I know from a lot of other people that rowing is paid for in other colleges, not just for like the outings and general subscription, but also for entering any races. And I think it was really good that in CATS, rowing was made free, so it was made accessible for anybody who wanted to try it, even if they didn't end up liking it. One of the main perks of college is that it's so central. I knew about this beforehand and it really didn't disappoint. I think CATS has this very much Goldilocks location, like nothing is too far, so you're not too far from like the market and the shops. You're really close to the lectures, especially if you do science, but even if you're doing humanities, it's still really close, especially for the second year accommodation. That's right by the humanities department, so that's overall really good for them. It's not too far from the train station, it's in the right direction, it's not too far from the clubs either. So on the whole, it has a really, really excellent location. It is really small though, in terms of like size. It's not small in terms of like the number of students. I think it's like a medium-sized student population within a really, really tiny college. So everything is quite crowded, and I think there just isn't that much like breathing space, and I think the facilities are quite limited. So we have quite a small gym. The gym is free though, and I think that is really excellent. There is a relatively small bar, and there's a chapel, a hall, and 2 libraries. There aren't as many facilities as they do have in some of the other colleges, but on the whole, I think you have everything that you need and it's easy to get to, which is a benefit of having a small college. In terms of accommodation though, it's worth remembering that the second year accommodation is further out. So it's right across from Clare Hall or near Selwyn. So that is worth bearing in mind, just to remember that you won't be in that super central location for the entirety of your degree. In general, I think the people in college were nice. I do think it was somewhat cliquey though, and I'm not sure if that has to do with the pandemic because of, you know, the rules of sixes and whatever. so like that might have a role to play. But that's not really something that you can foresee when applying, because it's just like dependent on like who ends up going. I think it's generally quite difficult to judge that within a college, but on the whole, I was quite happy with it anyway. Overall, I think the facilities are somewhat basic, but they have everything that they need and it's all very easy to get to. So they have 2 libraries. So one of them is called the Shake Shack Library. That's the larger one and most people tend to go to that. And then there's the Sherlock Library. I think the Sherlock Library is a lot prettier, but that was closed for renovations for 2 years in a row. And that's generally aimed at like more like languages and literature instead. It's a much older library and prettier. There's a good range of different rooms that you can get. There are some en-suites, but there are a lot of non-en-suites, so you can find something within the price range that you're looking for. The bar is quite modern. I would say by like standards, I think it's relatively average, but one of the main benefits is that it's student run, so they employ students within the college who get to work there for a few hours a week, and it means that it's a lot more like approachable, and it's just, I don't know, a good atmosphere to have. In terms of events within college, I think they really try to cater it to everybody. So like they'll have activities like punting and Freshers Week, but they'll also have like bops, so like kind of like school discos in the bar, and there'll be like different like sporting events, and I think overall there's a decent mix of different events that you can go to, even if you're a non-drinker, which I think was really good because I'm not that keen on drinking, to be honest. And then the last thing I wanted to touch upon was the staff. I think the staff in CATS have been really, really friendly. So that includes the porters who are at Porter's Lodge and kind of control the movement of people into the college, but also the people working in hall, as well as like tutors and academics, and even like the people doing maintenance and cleaning. Like they're all really friendly, and I've been able to talk to all of those. So I think that made my experience a lot better and it felt a lot more welcoming. So I think on the whole, ending up in CATS was definitely a positive thing. I was really, really impressed about their welfare. I had no idea about that when I was applying, but I think it was for the best in that sense. I think if I could, looking back when I have applied to a larger college with a lot more funding, maybe I would have, but at the same time, I still really like CATS, and I think it is a very nice college. So if you're considering applying, yeah, let me know in the comment section below. There are lots of great things about it, and yeah, I hope this video was useful. If you enjoyed it, please remember to like and subscribe, and yeah, if you have any questions, just let me know in the comment section, or just get in contact with me in any other way, like maybe on Instagram. Anyway, that's all from me. Bye guys.